Welcome to the Chief Endurance Officer Podcast. I'm your host, Greg McDonough. Each week, we hear real time stories from athletes and CEOs on how to maximize performance through an endurance mindset. Let's get started. Well, welcome to the Chief Endurance Officer Podcast. I'm your host, Greg McDonough. I am super excited about our guest today. She is the visionary behind the company that produces top tier racing events. They are known for leveraging cutting edge technology and state of the art equipment. She's earned the prestigious award of the Charlotte Ledger 40 over 40, honoring her leadership, innovation, and dedication to excellence. The owner of Start to Finish Event Management, please welcome Jen Forsyth. Jen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Greg. I'm glad to be here.
It's awesome to have you here. As you know, we love talking about endurance and the endurance mindset. So, Jen, I'd love to know, how has your endurance mindset impacted your life unexpectedly?
Well, this whole endurance journey for me has really been unexpected. I studied graphic design in college, came out of college, started a career in graphic design, and was just talking to my brother one day. He's a programmer and said, "Hey, let's start a little business. I don't know. Let's do something fun." At the time, I was doing triathlons all around the country, all around the world, really, actually. So I loved triathlons and training, and so we started this company called Triathletes Online. And this was probably the smallest possible market we could have because it was for pro triathletes who uh, were looking to get sponsorships and they needed to have a website. So it was a website builder, which at the time, this is back in like probably 99. They weren't around that much, those type of tools. Now they're everywhere, but at the time they weren't around that much. So we started that. We had maybe one or two people that actually used the system, but it was the beginning of what became Races Online, which was our online registration company that ended up going nationwide, which then led to Start to Finish, which is our event management and timing company. So, from that little sort of conversation over a beer, probably like, oh, let's start a company. That'd be fun. And what started with, a company that really didn't go anywhere, that sort of spawned all the rest of what I've been doing for the past 25, 30 years.
Wow. I love it. I love these entrepreneurial stories of how like for me, my career has been sort of like a random walk, but if I look backwards, it is a straight line. Like everything, one thing led to another, led to the other, and it was all sort of for the purpose. I'm curious, like when did the Start to Finish event management like idea sort of bubble up out of Races Online and then your triathletes online? Like when did that spark sort of happen? And
So we had Races Online. I have a business partner, and we did Online together. My brother ended up getting out of the company, so it was just my business partner and I. We ran Races Online together for probably 10 years, and then he actually in Memphis started doing some event management stuff. At the time, I was still working doing graphic designs. I did some programming. And then a few years after he started doing Start to Finish in Memphis, I moved to Charlotte with my husband and our kids. And we decided to buy a running store and, thought, you know what, let's have everything that we do sort of working together. So we'll start to finish here. And again, I'm not someone that had this grand plan of how this was all going to work out and be, a business that really sustained us for a long time. I just thought this might be fun, so let's just try it. And I have kids that are 21, 18, and 16, so they're at that age where they're trying to figure out what they're gonna do with their lives.
yeah.
And I try and tell them, you don't have to, you don't have to have a great idea, you don't have to have a great plan, just start with something, follow your curiosity, start with something small, do a good job at it, kind of pour yourself into it and see what comes of it. And that really, for me, that led to, this company we're now in 5 different cities and we work with 450 or so races in a year. And it really grew to something much bigger.
I love the start with curiosity. I'm curious, Jen, Have you seen that pop up anywhere else in your life?
That's a good question. I mean, I think about it a lot right now with my kids. I
Mm,
feel like kids now, maybe it's the internet, I don't know what it is, maybe it's social media, but they're so focused on the money side of things, and I think it's tough to it I love money, I love making money, there's nothing wrong with making money, but I think it's tough to just chase the money and not
mm.
chase, sort of your curiosity, your passion, and be doing something that you love. Otherwise, you're gonna be going to work every day, hating what you do, and to me, the money's not worth it at that point.
100%. And my kids are 15 and 12, and I struggle with the same thing. It's like this instant gratification between doing a chore, or I pay my kids for dropping time in swimming. That's the thing I started 4 years ago, and they're top athletes in the pool for probably that reason. But I'm convinced that my youngest has her shopping cart full before going to the swim meet, because she kind of calculated exactly how much she needs to drop in order to get such and such money in order to get what she wants to. Um, I'm curious, like, you just brought up kids. How can we encourage them to kind of stay curious and not focus so much on the instant gratification?
Yeah, that's the challenge. I think we're fighting against a whole lot of algorithms out there that are really all about the instant gratification, and so, just trying to lead by example. Um,
Mm,
they have in their, you know later teenage years become more interested, I think, in my husband and my story and just sort of how we got to where we are. And hopefully that, gives some ideas about how they can move forward in life and get what they want. But yeah, I think it's really hard. I think it's one of the hardest things about parenting right now is, sort of fighting against this social media trend. And there's so much money out there being poured into the attention economy and getting them, to react to all these things that are going on online all the time. Uh, that's the challenge as parents that we have, I think, is getting them away, trying to show them, um, the benefits of getting into nature and getting off their screens and again, trying to live by example in that regard as well. If I'm on my screen all the time, it doesn't matter what I say to them,
mm,
they're gonna do the same thing, right?
yeah, 100%. And it brings me back to thinking about racing, right? And so my wife and I do Ironman races. We've done them before the kids were born, and they think it's sort of normal that we spend all this time training and race day. And in fact, there's a great story of my youngest. We're at the Marine Corps Marathon in Washington, D.C., and we're there as a spectator because we lived in the city. And I'm holding Simone, and we're watching these runners come by, and she turns to my wife and goes, "So when did they swim and bike?" Because they're so sort of used to the swim, bike, run, which I thought was amazing.
Listen, what's the point?
So, which brings me back to racing and our kids and what you do, right? I mean, here's an opportunity for us to sort of show them how to get away from televisions and the attention economy and et cetera, et cetera. Have you seen um, sort of the demographics of your races changing between, age groups and kids? And like, give me a sense of what you've seen over the years as this attention economy is sort of taking steam.
Yeah, absolutely. Over the years, the age has sort of gotten higher. So our, 35 to 39, 40 to 44, 45 to 49 have been our biggest age groups for the past probably 5 years. Just in the past year or so, we've seen a much greater amount of the 20 to 24s, 25 to 29s coming in, and I really credit that with the run clubs. I think the run
Mm,
clubs are providing an incredible, social connection for younger people. They're generally based around breweries, so people will go out, they'll go for a run, they'll stay, and have a drink or just hang out with friends. And that has brought those those age groups back to the races. It's interesting. I was listening to a podcast about AI, and the guest that was on there was saying, I think AI is going to take over a whole lot of things that we do, and it's going to come really quickly. We're not talking about 2 years from now. We're talking about 6 months, a year, 18 months. But the things that are going to become even more important are the things that provide us with that social connection. And he actually called out run clubs specifically, which I thought was pretty cool. Um, but just providing that connection to that age group, and then hopefully that motivates them to come out to the races and support, all these great causes that we have in our cities.
So speaking of races, as the beneficiary of a participant, right? We pay our fee, we do our training, we show up on race day, we get the luxury of a race, we finish hopefully. As a participant, like what should we know and appreciate about what really happens on the back end?
Well, I can tell you from working with a lot of different organizations, our company works mainly with nonprofit organizations that are putting on, 5K, 10Ks, half marathons, cycling events, for whatever cause they're working towards. So whether they're trying to get awareness for their cause, um, trying to raise money, obviously, for their cause. So the people that are putting on these races are incredibly passionate about what they're doing. They are normally doing one race per year, and they really, really care a lot about it. And that's our job as their event management and timing company, is to help them, see this vision through. So, I can tell you that I think when people come to work for start to finish and sort of see the inner workings of what we do, I think they're very surprised at the level of detail that we go into before these races, um, and how much we really care about the participant experience. And,
Mhm.
we have meetings and documents and notes that go down to the really almost the minute of every single thing that's going to happen on race morning. And then we have a meeting after every race where we go through and we say, okay, what can we do better? What went great? What are our action items? It's a true business. We don't just kind of go out there and wing it. We really care about all the details and trying to make it a special experience for the participants, because a lot of the participants, that's their only race as well. We
Mhm.
have a lot of participants that are coming out to 5Ks that they do one 5K a year, or maybe it's their first 5K, and they've, never run more than 2 miles. And, so these are special events for people. We take it really seriously to treat it as such.
So over the years, I've done a bunch of work for a handful of nonprofits. So I'm curious, when does an event become a good fundraising tool for them? Like, thinking of a nonprofit right now that supports the families of wounded warriors as they're recovering, and you know, we're just over a million in revenue. We've got a pretty good following. We've been in organization for 17 years. Like, when does it make sense for them to say, "Hey, we should put on a 5K in order to add another fundraising program to their program?"
Well, that's a great question, and this also sort of answers your question from before of something that the participants should know is generally race fees are not going to make enough money to
Mm.
to make the organization a lot of money. So the way that these races really make their money is through sponsorships. So when participants go out to races and they see all these sponsors listed, the best thing that they can do to support the racing community and the organization that's putting on the race is to go shop with these sponsors. That'll will keep them coming back. That'll keep them supporting the race, and that way the races can continue to happen, and the organizations can raise the money that they want to raise. Um, and they'll keep wanting to use running races as a vehicle by which to do that.
So you left me a little breadcrumb there talking about sponsors, and thank you for making that point because I don't feel, especially as a participant, that we actually value the sponsorships as much as we should. Like we see the logos everywhere and you kind of run by it and you maybe go to an expo and you kind of, you know, see the mom and pop shop trying to sell you some nutrition and whichever else. Um, but talk to me a little bit more about like what makes a good sponsorship from a race perspective. Like what kind of, how much patience should that sponsor have? How many years does it take to get an ROI? Like, give me a sense of, from the sponsor's perspective, what their expectations for signing up to be a sponsor for a race.
Yeah, there's a wide level of sponsorships, right? So anywhere from, some races will pay $500 to come show up at a local 5K that has, 300 people at it, and be able to show off their whatever their service or their product is to those participants, all the way up to, multi-million dollar sponsorships, obviously of the bigger races. So, that it varies. How much that these sponsors can sort of expect to get out of these race sponsorships. I generally work with, smaller local races as far as the sponsors go, and I think there's an immediate, sort of, return, and I do think that understand the local participants particularly understand, the value of the sponsors and, you know, take it upon themselves to go out and support these sponsors once they've come out to races.
Uh, so as we're approaching our sponsors, or our sponsors, signing up to be a sponsor for a race, do you see a difference in, their ROI with how much they actually are involved in it? Like, there's one thing to show up and sit at the expo and stand behind your table and hope people walk by and buy your shirts and buy this and buy that, or your nutrition or your hydration products. But I find that sponsors probably have a bigger impact if they're leaning into the event, they're showing, like, they're in front of their table. Any insights there of, like, how a sponsor can get a better return on their investment by their participation within the race itself?
Yeah, I think, what sponsors might not realize is that there really is a lot of, customization that can happen with race sponsorship. So,
Mm.
it doesn't have to be just like, "Okay, I wanna do this gold, silver, bronze level, and this is what it is." I would encourage any sponsor that's interested in getting into that running market to think about really, you know, what do you wanna get out of this, and how can we make this sponsorship something special? Maybe it's a car dealership, a car brand that says, "Well, anybody that drives this type of car gets special parking." We work with a race called Around the Crown. I think you
Mhm.
interviewed Brian Mister. He's
Yeah.
great at coming up with creative sponsorship ideas. And so, maybe it's something like that, but doing something that really is specific to the sponsor's brand, I think will make people pay attention more, um, and, think about that brand when they're out shopping for a car.
Awesome. I'm gonna shift gears on you slightly, Jen, and I'd love to go back and talk about building community and how these races, and to the point you made about age groups and running shops and the breweries, um, talk to us about how these events, the events that you are running, are building and strengthening community, and not only just the community side of it, but how that community and relationship then extends sort of past the race.
Yeah, the running community is a sort of big, small community in each of these cities, right? There are a lot of runners around, walkers, but if you really look at it, it's a lot of the same people going to the races, going to the run clubs, and um, a lot of people in the running community will do races, 30, 40, even sometimes 50 weekends out of the year. So it's bringing the races bring a lot of the same people together, as well as sort of pulling new people into this sport that we all love so much. Again, I just go back to these run clubs that are out there that are, organizing sometimes around, sort of a specific reason, like maybe all these people live in this particular area. Maybe, you know, I don't know. Different run clubs do different things to build community around that so that people
Mm.
feel, some sort of connection beyond just running to come together and to get them out of their houses, off the couch, and into our running community.
That's super helpful. I'd love to learn more about sort of the full breadth that start to finish offers its customers, right? I mean, if I'm again, nonprofit executive listening to this podcast, thinking about putting on an event, I suspect it's not as simple as calling Jen and sending you a check, and then the event happens and the event finishes, and you've got a community that you've built. But it's also not as complex as they're picking up the timing chips and doing X and Y. Like, give us the full breadth of what start to finish offers its race clients.
Yeah, normally the organizations that we work with are great at raising money and great at getting sponsors and have lots of volunteers, but they don't really have any idea how to put on a race. And it
Mm.
doesn't make sense for them to spend their time trying to learn how to, cone a course when they can hire a company like ours to do that for them. So we have several packages, where we work with, from just going in and timing a race to our most comprehensive package is really walking through the entire race planning process hand in hand with our clients. And that's everything from, designing a course, getting venues, filing permits, working with the city, working with the police, handling participant customer service. We have a customer service, team and ticketing system, helping them out with insurance, bringing all of our equipment. We have truss and inflatable arches and fencing and, cones and ATV vehicles and trailers and all that stuff that a nonprofit organization is not going to have. So we really walk through this whole process with them from the beginning and try to understand what their goals are. Maybe, as I said before, it could just be awareness. It could be, raising money. And so we kind of adjust accordingly and make sure that we're taking their vision and helping them define that vision and
Mhm.
then bringing it to fruition on race day.
So let's talk about your entrepreneurship journey. Um, any unexpected outcomes, unexpected events, unexpected things that have bubbled up sort of as you've grown and built this business?
I mean, it's all been quite unexpected to me, to be honest. Again, um, you know, I didn't come at this with a grand vision of how this was all going to work. I just, started with a very small idea and then got up every day and tried to do better, today than I did yesterday. And it has grown into something much bigger. Um, I'll tell you one funny story. When we started Races Online, we, created the system. We got a couple races to sign on to it. We opened our with Memphis in May, which was, I don't know if you remember that triathlon, but that was a huge triathlon in Memphis at the time. It was about 1,500 to 2,000 people, which is pretty big for a triathlon. And it was a time trial start. So this is before chip timing. So a person would go every 3 seconds and jump in the
Mhm.
water and swim. So you had to have like, ghost people if there was a break in the numbers, if somebody didn't show up, it was the whole thing. But so we started with Memphis in May. People signed up. Um, and the bank, we had a whole bunch of people sign up on the first day, and the bank was like, "Oh my god, this is a new company. We don't know if we're gonna if all the we don't know is this, event is even gonna happen," and they sort of shut us down right away. Kept all our money, for, like, a long time, like 6 months, because they're worried about people, trying to get refunds. So that was a little bit of a glitch in the beginning, but we ended up getting it all worked out, obviously. But yeah, I mean, you know, from the beginning, it's just been a day by day thing, and we try things and sometimes they don't work, and we just keep trying to do the best that we can by the participants. So what we've always lived by is what is the best for the participants. So back when we had our races online, race calendar, you know, we didn't fill it with a whole bunch of ads and things that participants didn't really wanna see. We really kept it clean for the participants, and we carried that into start to finish. It's like, really, what is the best thing for the participants? And we, from the beginning have tried to bring sort of big race energy to smaller
Mm.
races. So, we used to do a big results tent that you would really only see at bigger races, but we brought it into smaller races and a big start finish line and just try and make for those people that only do that one 5K a year, try and make it something special for them that they remember.
That's awesome, and much appreciated for sure. Jen, I'm curious about the team you have around you and the culture you've built sort of within the organization. Can you give us a sense of what that's like?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things about start to finish is, you know, having this team that comes out on race morning and does something that's, a lot of times it's really early. Most of the time it's super early in the morning. A lot of times it's cold. Sometimes it's wet, but we all come together and sort of do this hard thing together is one of my favorite parts of this job. But I would say two things there. Number one, I am so lucky. I really feel so much gratitude toward my business partners. I have 3 now. There are 4 owners of start to finish. And that those relationships, I think it's important to put in to those relationships almost you would with a marriage or,
Mhm.
really sort of pour into those important work relationships. And so my partners now are just some of the most important people in my life. And the staff that we have in Charlotte is incredible. This isn't an industry, at least on my side, where anybody's making a ton of money. The people that work for start to finish are doing it because they love it. They love the industry and they feel like they can make a difference and they work very, very hard. They're up early in the morning. They're at work, 5 days a week during the week. And then they're on the weekends, they're working races and, they're incredible. They're out in the, um, doing the run clubs in the community, they're running races, they love it, and so I think that really shows through when we come out to the races that we're all really happy to be there.
Mhm.
We love.
Yeah, my next question for you is gonna be, does the staff and your partners participate in the races that you manage and or other races? Like, are they fully into it, or is it how the cake's made, and so you don't wanna taste the cake anymore?
No, no, well, I haven't been racing for a while, but a lot of people are still racing, and we love to go to other races. I mean, we'll go see what other people are doing, get ideas.
Yeah.
We have a staff of probably about 100 across all 5 of our office, probably about 150 part-time. Really, we call them our race crew that will come out and work our races, and they all do our races as well. So they're almost all out, in the community doing the races. And I don't think we would be, um, you know, as good of a company as good doing as good of a job as what we do without people being out at the races and really seeing
Mhm.
what else is going on and trying to stay, kind of on top of what's going on out there with other races.
Certainly. So I have to ask you, what's your favorite race story?
Oh my gosh. Um, Give me a minute on that one. We'll come back to it.
Okay. So I'll shift gears back to the participants then. I'm curious that for somebody who's seen many, many races, many, many starts, and many, many finishes and hundreds of thousands of participants, do you have a sense of like how that participant's going to do prior to the gun going off? I've got this feeling that when I go and I toe the line at a triathlon, that somebody who's there often can look at me and say, yeah, he's going to finish in 14 hours and 7 minutes before I even start the day, right? They just know because they've seen it so many times. Do you get that sort of ESP feeling when seeing participants getting ready for the start?
No,
Oh,
we really don't. I want to make sure participants understand that there is no sort of judgment or, feeling
mm,
about how they're going to do. We are there for them no matter what. We don't care if they're winning the race, if they're in last place, if we have to, push them over to the sidewalk, because the police are saying we have to reopen the roads. We really are there for all types of participants, um, from the start to the finish. And I mean, you know, y- as timers, we do get into that a little bit, because if somebody finishes and they, don't look like they're running that fast, but they're coming in first, then we have to think, okay, what happened here? Did they turn around where they shouldn't have? So there is a little bit of that, but for the most part, there really is no sort of judgment on our part about how fast somebody looks or slow somebody looks. It doesn't matter to us.
awesome. That's super helpful. Flipping back to the favorite race, anything pop up?
Oh gosh.
We could save it for the next podcast if we need to.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's there's something great about every race.
Mm,
We're out at,
yes.
I mean, I'm probably at 25 races a year. It's like picking your favorite kid.
Right.
They're
Right.
all really, really special. I mean, I say that and it seems like, how could they all be special? I've been in this for what, 16, 17 years now. But they really are. These organizations are doing such good work in their communities, and it's really special to be out there with them every weekend.
That's brilliant. Brilliant. Jen, if an audience member wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, s2fevents.com is our website. And on there, you can see contact Charlotte, contact Memphis. So, Charlotte, I'm in Charlotte. That's how they can get in touch with me. That comes directly to me. So, I'd love to talk to anybody that's interested in putting on a race, or getting some help with timing or.
That's awesome. And we'll include those links in the show notes. One quick question, similar to your favorite, but slightly different ask. What is the biggest race you guys put on?
So, let's see. Probably the Little Rock Marathon is the biggest race that we work with. The Komen Race for the Cure races probably used to be
Mm,
the biggest. They've gotten a little bit smaller since there are so many other races around for people to do. They were kind of at the forefront of putting on 5Ks as charity events. Um, so I think probably the Little Rock Marathon is the biggest
awesome.
race that we work with. But we work with a lot of marathons. We work with the City of Oaks, Myrtle Beach, the Charleston Half Marathon, the Charlotte Marathon, Brian's Race around the Crown, lots of turkey trots, the Charlotte Turkey Trot. Charlotte Turkey Trot is pretty big as well.
I love the turkey trot. It signals to me like it's the start of training.
Yeah,
Like the turkey trot is sort of the first sort of start of my training season.
yeah.
Jen, it's been awesome having you on the show. I really appreciate the passion you have and your team has for these events and the events that you manage. And as a participant, I feel it, right? I feel it when the organizers actually care about the participant experience. And just over our conversation today, it's clear that you and your team truly care about the participant experience. And so thank you for that. I also enjoyed our conversation around your entrepreneurship journey and how we discussed, do a little bit better today than you did yesterday. And there's a lot, that's a great metaphor for our endurance training, for life. So please keep doing what you're doing. I look forward to participating in one of your events this coming up season. It's been great having you on the show. Audience members, please follow Jen. Please check out their races. If you got some value out of the show, please subscribe. Again, it's been great having you on the show today, Jen. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. I really appreciate what you're doing here with this podcast. It's been fun to listen to all these people that are in our industry doing great things, and I appreciate all the work you're doing there. So thanks for having me.
Been my pleasure. Yeah, it's an absolute passion project to say the least. But
Yeah.
I, I'll keep going, doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Chief Endurance Officer podcast. To hear more inspiring stories and strategies around the endurance mindset, be sure to subscribe below or visit us at chiefenduranceofficer.com. Until next time, keep pushing those limits